Missing someone. Love with all your heart. Missing someone.
What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. So this week I'm going to be doing a creative color transformation. So this client has pretty much virgin hair and we are going to be doing a fresh balayage on her. I'm going to show you what placement I would do on a client who has never had any highlights done or anything like that, to kind of get her to a more full color for creative color. And then afterwards we're going to be putting on some amazing Danger Jones semi-permanent color line to give her a really pretty purple. So I am going to start in the back of her head and start to kind of weave her hairline and give a little bit of a blend there. And then for the rest of the head we are just going to be slicing. I generally don't like to slice the hairline unless maybe it's like the money piece in the very front to frame the face, just because I feel like weaving it on the sides and around the rest of the hairline just gives a really soft touch to the whole color. So after I do those weaves, you can see I'm taking a slice, kind of like that triangle section, and I'm just going to continue up towards the head. So these are going to be spaced out, I would say about 1/4 inch, depending on how dense that area is. So since she doesn't have any highlights for me to work with, I'm basically putting in a full new blueprint of color and balayage with highlights to kind of give her the lightness. And I don't want to space out my slices too far apart because she does have, I would say, a level 3. And if I don't give her enough highlights, sometimes it can look a little too dark and dimensional with this type of color placement. So I am trying to keep the sections a little bit closer together so that she feels like she has a lot of color by the end of this whole placement. So right now for my products, I am using the Blonde Me Schwarzkopf Lightener. So up until this section right here, I probably used a bowl of 6 volume and 20 volume. And then right around this area is when I like to switch it up and bump it up to 20 volume. And I will continue just using 20 volume for the rest of the head. So I am going to continue the same pattern all the way up the mohawk of her head. Sometimes the mohawk placement will change depending on where the client parts their hair. So like, let's say she parts her hair a little bit off to the side, then I kind of will alter the placement of this mohawk and slowly move it towards where her part is. But she parts in the middle, so I'm gonna just be continue doing this to the middle all the way up to the hairline in the front of her head. So since this is the front money piece area, this is the section where I said this is the only area where I would do a slice around the hairline, right around the face. So I am doing a few slices back to back with no negative space, just so that she has the illusion that the front is a little bit lighter. And then the rest, I'm going to continue doing the same exact slicing pattern that I did for the top and the back, leaving about 1/4 inch of negative space, depending on the density of her hair. And I find that this placement is very easy to do. I can bang out this placement in about, I would say about like 45 to an hour. And when I do touch-ups on this, since it's such a simple placement, I pretty much do very similar thing every time. It's gonna make it really easy for me to touch it up. So when I go back in, all I have to do if she wants to go lighter is to pick out all of the negative space that I left out this time. But if she wants to maintain it, what I generally would do is ask them if they want to have a softer grow out. And if they want to have a softer grow out, then my spacing on my slices will just be a lot further apart. And by a lot further apart, I would say closer to more so half the inch, so basically double of what I'm doing now, to kind of give a little bit of a softer blend, a little bit more dimension. And then that kind of gives the illusion that the root is a little bit more dimensional, and then it kind of goes into the ends that is a little bit lighter. But because she had no previous color, like no previous highlights or anything, I always let them know that the first session, since they are so dark and I do want them to feel like they have a good amount of color, that they might feel a little bit more solid after the first session. And then once we get most of that color in, we can start blending the roots and making it a bit softer then. But I feel like if I did it backwards, whereas if a client, I did a more softer blend today, instead of doing a more solid application, then she probably would have felt a little bit too dimensional, a little bit too subtle and dark after her first session. So I always explain that to my clients and let them know that it's going to be a process for us to kind of blend the root out, and we need to do more of a solid application so that we can get the ends looking nice and bright, and then worry about blending the root a little bit softer once we're on after the first session. So we're going to be putting a really dark pigmented purple on her, but I still like to lift my clients fairly light so that the color fades out really pastel, and it also gives them like the option to do a whole different color later because they're already so light. So I'm going to be using the Danger Jones color. I'm using Hysteria and Libertine, and I love these boxes because it shows you what the color will look like depending on the level of hair. So it gives you really good visualization of what the color is going to look like on your canvas. And I really do love the packaging too. I feel like it's very sleek and it just feels very luxe when you use it. So I'm going to be mixing up these colors to kind of create like a pinky purple, and whenever I do creative color, I always like to do like a darker color at the root and then a lighter color on the mids and ends. So Libertine is a bit darker than Hysteria, so that formula for the root is going to have a little bit more Libertine than I would on the mids and ends to kind of create a more shadow rooted effect on the mids and ends. And I really love the way that these products smell. I feel like if you haven't used them, the first impression that anyone ever says about the products is that it smells so good, and it does kind of linger in the hair even after you rinse it out. So I feel like it just gives it a nice, like fresh, almost like perfumey scent to it, to the hair. And every client of mine has always been like, oh my god, what are you using in my hair, because it smells so good. So before my application, I've already blow dried her hair, and now I'm going in with that darker purple formulation, which is mostly Libertine on the root. And I like to do this part more so vertically as I do a root shadow, just because I feel like it keeps my sections more clean. And as I get closer towards the hairline, I can kind of make the root just a little bit smaller than the back. So after I root the whole thing, I'm going to go in and use that lighter color, which is mostly Hysteria. And Hysteria is that berry color, so it's going to give us a really warm toned purple. And I'm just taking very thin sections and making sure that I'm fully saturating all around. And I feel like this product is very easy to work with and spread out. The purples are extremely pigmented, so I feel like a little goes a long way, and I feel like I just didn't have to use as much product when using this color line. Alrighty guys, so here is the finished look. I can see how beautiful and shiny the hair color made her hair, and I feel like this gave her such a cool transformation from being all virgin and coming in all wanting to be all purple. So since this purple is more of a warm toned purple. This is going to fade out really pretty. I always tell my clients that pinks and purples fade the best on the hair. So as this fades out, it's going to fade into the most beautiful pastel tone of purple before it gets to blonde. And I feel like because of the blend that we did and the way that we lightened her hair, that she can enjoy the whole fade of this and even just wear the color as itself, even if this whole color completely fades out. Alrighty guys, that is it for this week's episode. Thank you guys so much for watching and tuning in, and as always, I will talk to you guys next week.